Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you find yourself today. Folks, welcome back to Chris Wyatt. It is the 6th of January, 2022. This is a special broadcast covering the events that took place on the 6th of January, 2021. Well, welcome back to the program, folks. It's a pleasure to have you join me today. I hope that you find yourself well wherever you may be around the world. And of course, once again, with such a momentous date in mind, I am wearing traditional American colors of red, white, and blue, just in a different fashion today. And this one is an Izod pullover, or as they say in German, or sweater, as we say here in America. Welcome back to the program, folks. What's going to follow now for the next hour or so? I'm going to show you raw footage plus my commentary. Sometimes you'll hear me or the crowd, and then I'll mute that, and then I'm going to put myself back on camera so you can see my narration of what's actually happening here. These are events that unfolded. This is over an hour and a half of actual footage from the events, including the Trump rally, which honestly I didn't even know about until shortly before that, and then the effort by Americans to make their voices be heard, seeking a right of redress, which is being lied about, especially in the Washington Compost today, endlessly by people who are just full of it and don't know what they're talking about and trying to rewrite contemporary history even as it unfolds. It's disappointing. It's sad. It is really pathetic, to say the least. That is the fact. Well, folks, also this morning on Morning Shot, my article was published. The one that I wrote for today, although the one that I wrote about the South African Rand Coalition did not get posted. I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah, so let's see. Let me find that real quick. I'll get you a link to that. So let me just give you this. If you're looking for that article on Morning Shot, this is the link to my Morning Shot article, which was published this morning. Also, I read this article and made a video on it, which you're welcome to watch on the channel, or you can just go read it if you like, whichever you prefer, or you can download it, save, whatever it is you like. But once again, published on Morning Shot again this morning. Actually has a really good photo there of the Capitol building and a Trump flag waving. Now, that's after I left the scene. None of this that you see in the photograph did I experience. That happened all long after I was gone. Anyway, so there you go. So that's up if you'd like to see it. Thank you for tuning in. Well, let's get to the footage, folks, and start talking about what's actually going on here. So this is the 6th of January. I'm going to put it on the screen here, and then I'll bring myself up in the mini camera. And what you're going to see is me explaining what's going on. And then since this is an hour and a half of footage, I'm going to jump ahead and talk about it. I'll answer your questions. For everyone's edification, the reason I was present is in my role as a journalist last year on my original channel that was censored by YouTube for covering events like this. Honestly, YouTube had that channel, and people asked me to go, are you going to go to the rally or to the protest on the 6th of January? I said, no, I don't want to go near D.C. It's just going to be a headache. It's going to be trouble. And actually that day, I nearly turned around twice because traffic was just so crazy trying to get D.C. In the end, what I did is I doubled back, traveled back about 10 kilometers back in the opposite direction, turned, went west on a country road down towards the Potomac River and paralleled the Potomac River through back roads and little villages and towns with lots of speed traps and cops out trying to give tickets. But fortunately, I don't speed, so I wasn't, well, not as a matter of normal course. And I managed to get down to almost the connection where Maryland crosses into D.C., and then I jumped back on the interstate and got into the Capitol in relatively good fashion, but it still took an extra half hour. So I nearly gave up twice and went back, but I stuck with it. I went to the event. The intent was to cover it. That day, I dressed warmly. It was very cold. I had a couple drinks with me that I carried with me. I also had a GoPro. I had 2 different mobile phones. Not this one. This is a replacement. That's the S21. I had the S9 that I took with me, and I also had this LG phone, which I recorded. So 3 devices to record. I had a selfie stick so that I could get above the crowd. Not a particularly good one, but I had a selfie stick. And I went there with the intent of covering this as an objective journalist. I did. I went to the rally. I arrived at 10 o'clock on the mall, so I got into D.C. about 9:30, thereabouts, a little bit after 9. I got to the mall at 10 o'clock and started recording. I intended to live stream from the mall, but because of the number of people on the mall, what happened is that the providers shut down your data, so you can't get data. You can't download. Now you can receive data from emergency notifications, and that's why they do it. If there's a reason that the networks have to communicate with people on the network to pass information, either about an Amber Alert or about a weather warning or about, in this case, curfews later in the day, they need to be able to do that. So they shut down your ability to get data. Only certain customers could still get the data. Some of the better known YouTube personalities actually were able to do this. And I wasn't. I had no connection. 2 different companies, 2 different networks, and I could not connect to the network, even before the massive crowd showed up. So I gave up eventually. What I did know is that my connection that I connected on YouTube was still trying to connect to that server on my main phone, which meant that it drained my battery for an hour and a half. And so I lost a lot of my battery before I realized that, and that was the key phone I was using, which really resulted in me getting limited footage of what happened at the Capitol steps. Plus, I spent far less time there. At the Capitol steps, I was there for an hour and a half roughly, and I'd spent a good 3 hours at the rally and walking around the mall. So that's what's going on. No rants, Anne-Marie, no rants. No rants. No reason to rant today, but thanks for tuning in. So that's the background for it. I drove there. I parked my car in a safe location approximately 3 kilometers from the mall. I walked to the mall. I had hiking boots on, and I was warmly dressed. I had spare batteries. I had a charger. I also had spare, those little battery packs, that you carry around with you, and a couple of those. And that's the only way I was able to recharge my phone. And so I had to switch to my GoPro and switch to my other phone while I was recharging my main phone. So a couple lessons learned that day, a couple hard lessons, but interesting experience nonetheless. I was there on the 6th of January. This was a peaceful assembly of at least 500,000 Americans, maybe more, who gathered either together or between what happened at the Trump rally and what happened over at the Capitol building. Now, what needs to be remembered here is that it turns out the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the National Counterterrorism Center, the D.C. Metropolitan Police, the Capitol Police were all informed of chatter on social media platforms, including Parler. Parler actually turned records over to the FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, before Christmas. Nearly 2 weeks before, 2 weeks before the event happened, they were sending messages to the federal government warning them that they were concerned about some users on their platform were talking about attending and causing trouble and starting chaos. The federal government did nothing with this information until the night of the 5th. The Capitol Police failed to prepare. They were woefully undermanned. They're woefully equipped. They were not prepared to protect or defend the Capitol, and that's what happened. The D.C. Metropolitan Police were nowhere to be seen. I saw a disgraceful report in the Washington Post last night, which claims that there was an altercation, that the police were attacked by protesters at the Washington Monument that morning. Well, if it happened before 10 a.m. And if it happened before 10 a.m., there would have been some commotion, people talking about it. Not a word, not a peep. Now, I didn't interview individuals at the event. I stayed away from that because I suspected they'd be mostly people in favor of Trump or angry about the election, and that would be rather one-sided. My role was to observe what was going on and to report it objectively. And the reason I did it was for my viewers, 23,000 at the time, almost 23,000. And the other reason I did it is to make a historical record. And I'm very glad that I did, because the lies, the endless BS that's being perpetrated and the fraud being pushed on the world is epic and worse than the Russia collusion fake story and the Ukraine impeachment, both of which were fraudulent, and the people behind them should be imprisoned for their crimes. They destroyed the reputation of this country. They tarnished our nation. They crippled our domestic and foreign policy, all for craven political power. People like Adam Schiff, people like I could go on and on, but we'll just stop with Adam Schiff right there. I have the proof. Mr. I have the proof. We are waiting for your proof, Adam Schiff. For 5 years, you lied to the American public on the television set virtually every day, telling people that Donald Trump colluded with Russia, and you had the proof. You've never shown us 1 ounce of proof. If you're going to try to claim it's classified, then tell us it's classified, and then start a Freedom of Information Act of your own to have it declassified and released. There you go. Anyway, let's get to the events on the 6th of January, folks. Here we go. Here we go. So let's get to this. And I'm going to comment on it. The first portion here, I'm going to let you hear what I've got to say. Now, I apologize for any profanity in advance. I can't control 500,000 people and what they say. Anyway, so also, when music's playing, I'm going to have to blot it out. Otherwise, I'm going to get a copyright claim, even though it's not using the music. Just YouTube's nonsense is getting obnoxious. So here we go. All right, so that's me in a prep video I just made. You're going to hear a little bit of what I have to say. Then we're going to go to the protest, and I'll put it on mute. The Trump rally at the Ellipse. You'll see the focus for my coverage was the crowd who was present and who wasn't. You will notice that throughout this video, you'll see virtually no stars and bars, the so-called Confederate flag. You'll see no Proud Boys. You'll see no Oath Keepers. You'll see no white supremacists. You will see lots of Hispanic people, lots of Asians, plenty of white folks, and a few black folks in the crowd. And that's what you'll see. You make your own analysis and make your own conclusions about the events on January 6th. Do you see people with firearms? Do you see people with explosives? Do you see people with sticks and pickaxes, tar and feathers? You do not. You do not. The world has been fed a lie, and this video refutes that lie. If you're not a subscriber, please become one by smashing the button down below. Cheers. Thanks a lot, folks.
Hey folks, Chris here live on the mall, Washington, D.C. When you see this, it won't be live. Either data suppression from T-Mobile or YouTube, one of the two, as people start to gather on the mall, right between the Smithsonian museums on each side of me here. And I see some rather unpolite language for Biden back there on the flag.
Yeah.
But directly behind me here as I spin around is the nation's capital, where the weak, callow members of the House and the Senate today will most likely vote to enshrine the plagiarist in chief as the next president of the United States. But here we are in the mall, and I just thought I'd give you a little bit of update since obviously YouTube and or T-Mobile are suppressing the network connection. I had a perfect connection 2 miles from here. I was able to live stream, but now I can't. Well, let me take you around and show you a little bit what's going on, folks. Quite a few people starting to gather here. The president's supposed to speak in less than an hour here on the mall in Washington, D.C. See the Washington Memorial right there.
All right, so I've turned the volume down because I'm going to get a copyright claim by these clowns. This is early in the morning. It's 10 o'clock. My first arrival. I was trying to live stream here, and you see the Capitol building behind me, the distance there. Lots of people arriving, very peaceful, well-behaved, no issues going on here. None of the lies that later come about. I got to keep moving myself around because I'm walking on the screen. Yeah, so there was a big stand there. People, lots of vendors, a lot of black guys selling T-shirts and caps and things. It was impressive. The well-behaved crowd. Nobody was shouting racial epithets, no racism whatsoever. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, mostly white folks. But then remember, folks, when people try to tell you that, oh, look, there's a Hispanic lady behind me. It's all white people. Well, 76% of America's population is white, so it should hardly be a surprise that white folks would show up primarily. 3 out of 4 people, all things being equal, should be white in this crowd, just being general speaking. That's the Smithsonian buildings around me. The African American History Museum is up there in the right-hand corner now where you see the people carrying the flag. A lot of F. Biden flags. I try to avoid that, but that's the African American History Museum over there, given the most prominent position as if 13% of the population is the most important part of the country. African American history is critical to America's history, and African Americans, black Americans, played a key role in the development and the growth of this country. But the fanaticism associated with that museum is disgusting and vile, and it's quite turns people off. The people who entered that building, the vast majority of them know nothing about the history of America, let alone the contribution of African Americans in this country, just a bunch of racial sycophants. By contrast, the Native American Museum, which is rather disappointing. I've never been in this museum, by the way, because every time I've gone, there's too many people in line because, you know, you got to do it. You're here. So people just go out of sense of obligation. Some go for their racist beliefs. Others go because they want to learn about African American contributions to our history. But the Native American Museum was given a far less prominent position on the opposite end just before the Capitol building. And that museum is quite frankly very lame. I've been there a couple of times, very disappointing. I expected far more. The displays are very weak. I hope that in that African American History Museum, the displays are far more, far better. But perhaps one day I'll get there. But the problem is that this is in the nation's capital, an occupied military district now. And so there you go. See the police cars right there? Right, that's it. That's it. Go back to right there. That's a cop car right there. That cop car is the only one I see on the mall that entire morning. That's it. You see one down here? There's a car sitting there. And that car will leave in a moment. See that white car down there? It will leave. There's the African American History Museum. Now, sometimes I was using 2 devices to record simultaneously, and that's one reason why things are bumping around. There's a cop car, and it leaves. And then that's the end of the law enforcement presence on the nation's capital, in the nation's capital, on the mall that day. This police car right here. He's inching up towards the crowd. I have no idea what he was doing or what he hoped to do. I think he wanted to get through there, and he finds out he can't. He turns around and leaves. So there's the bus stop for employees of the Smithsonian. See, now there's a group of Asians over here who are protesting against China in support of Trump. Listen to the Mandarin.
There is a massive crowd out here, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty crazy.
Ginger.
We're going to head towards the Washington Monument.
Okay, let me pause it right there.
Try to get a little bit.
You saw that law enforcement vehicle to the left there. That was it. That was the end of the D.C. Metropolitan Police's presence. This is at about 10:03 in the morning, maybe 10:04, because I walked from that spot down there. Probably about 10:03 in the morning. It was exactly 10 o'clock when I started broadcasting. This is the only police presence, and he disappeared. That was it. Never to be seen again. I walked around the entire center of Washington, D.C. that morning, and that's all we saw. That's all we saw. Feel free to comment or ask questions, folks, as we go along. This is, now I missed part of that, but there were a lot of Asians, about 10,000 Asians there, I assume they're Asian Americans, who were against China and communist China. They were located to the left-hand side of where I was filming at there. You could hear them in the distance. Quite a big crowd. They were opposite the African American History Museum. Now I'm crossing the street to the Washington Memorial, Washington Monument, which is a site that the Washington Post claims was the site of an altercation that morning at this time, or roughly this time, with police. There were no police there, none whatsoever. So I don't know what fiction they're making up. Perhaps it's a true story, but it didn't occur while I was there. So I arrived at 10 o'clock and I walked around this crowd. I walked through the crowd. I didn't catch the Rona, despite not being masked. No jabs available at the time. 500,000 people on the green did not get sick. Nothing occurred. By the way, wasn't robbed or pickpocketed by anybody or even attempted to throughout the day. That's interesting too. Good point I should note there. And then I actually walked through Constitution Avenue, which is the road in front of the White House. And that crowd was insane. I've seen the Washington Post now try to claim and take what happened and turn it into something. And you should see the vile bile that they've come up with. And I'll refute some of that as we go along. In fact, if there's time on this stream, I'll do it. If not, I'll save it for a later stream today, in which I'll bring up the comments from the Washington Post and I will go point by point and refute their nonsense. And I'll give you one taste of that. One taste of that is the following. Let me go ahead and let this play while I put on mute. So here we go. Let's put this on mute. So while it plays. Okay, so let's go play. There we go. So what will happen is the Washington Post says all these people with backpacks, basically they're implying that the reason they have backpacks is they have weapons inside there. Of course, we've yet to find a single case of a weapon of 500,000 people during this event. Now, I'm sure some people had firearms, although D.C. has very strict firearms control measures. But the point is that they're claiming all these people had backpacks because they were insurrectionists. Not because they carried their food or their water and they were going to spend hours standing in the cold weather. There's the Washington Monument up there. Not because they went to a rally. And they used the example of something I talked about that day. People were so enthusiastic to see President Trump that what they did is they took their backpacks, because you weren't allowed to enter with a backpack, just like entering any facility. You can't go to stadiums with a backpack anymore. You can't go in federal buildings with a backpack because they don't let it in. So rather than listening to the president at the ellipse, lots of people, when they went up through security, they snaked through the line, they abandoned their rucksacks, their bags, they dropped it there so they could get in to see the president. The Washington Post is trying to take that security measure used by the Secret Service to keep president safe as an argument that insurrectionists were there that day. It's vile, it's disgusting, it's a lack of intellectual integrity, it's journalistic dishonesty, it's just lies. Look at this well-behaved crowd. Nothing going on here untoward. There's a black guy. Oh, it's just white people. Lots of Asians, Hispanics. Now, there weren't a lot of black Americans there. I'll be honest about that. There wasn't 13% of the crowd. That's for darn sure. But they weren't exactly non-existent either. All these people. Also, the lie that it was all old white people. That's a lie, too. It was a very mixed crowd of folks. And people are like, well, yeah, but they're wearing hoodies. It's below freezing. It's very cold. Look at that wind blowing. Now, this is early. This is 10 o'clock in the morning. Trump wasn't even scheduled to speak until 11 o'clock, I think it was, this morning, if I remember correctly. So an hour before he's supposed to speak. And look at already this crowd, which only grew and grew and grew. No, the Nicklin, the Capitol. Yeah, I think you're trying to be smart, Alec. No, the Capitol Police have 2,400 officers. I'm trying to get the number right. One of them has 2,100 officers. The D.C. Metro Police have 2,800 officers, and the D.C. National Guard is 3,800. So in that force, all things being equal, the Capitol Police should have been able to muster 1,800 of the 2,100. 1,800. The D.C. Metro Police, by pulling people on, should have been able to pull up 2,000. and then the National Guard should have been able to pull up all 3,800. So 38, 48, 58 should have had at least 6,000 law enforcement and uniformed personnel there. There's Asians right there, some Asians, okay? Do you see any battle flags in the Army in Northern Virginia? I see none. Now, that doesn't mean they weren't there. I specifically looked for them. I saw at least 6 that day. Do you see Proud Boys? Do you see weapons? Do you see... No, nothing. There's an Asian American right there. Some people wearing masks because they chose to have an abundance of caution. A behavior at that time that was prevalent amongst Asian Americans and not so much other folks. And I've noticed that for years. There's a back to police banner right there. The Gadsden flag. Now, I have not watched this footage in ages. Even when I edited it, because I didn't take anything out of the content, I simply loaded it up and put it in sequential order. I have not watched it. So I haven't seen this since I walked this ground last year, what you're watching right now. So this is as much a surprise for me as this for you. Even though I've made videos and put them together, I don't edit my footage. The only thing I'm doing now is editing out the sound so that I don't get hit with copyright claims because the Trump rally was playing music in the background. Last year when I played a video, YouTube gave me a copyright claim. I said, I'm not playing their music. This is fair use. It was being played in public. And they still wouldn't take the copyright claim down. So that's why I'm muting it. This is my video. This is my property. By the way, a filmmaker last year asked to license my content from Israel. And I tried to get back with them, and they weren't very forthcoming. So I began to wonder if they're dodgy. And so I never did license the material. So anyway. And this is the Washington Monument behind me there, and I'm walking my way up to it. Look at this. And this crowd only got thicker. By the time it was over, you couldn't move around this grass. So I did this early while I still could. By the way, if you're going to lead an insurrection, would you stand around with your face unmasked so that people could see you? On the green, there's a white man with a black spouse or girlfriend. Now, you're asking, why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing it out because I'm refuting the lies that are told in the media. All the things I'm pointing out refute all the nonsense about who supported Trump, why people were here, and what was going on. Everybody's on their mobile phone. So there you go. Up to the Washington Monument now. There you go. I like that map. That's a county map. Shows you how many counties Trump won, how many Biden won in the country, yet he somehow improbably won 80 million votes despite winning less than 10% of the physical territory of the country. Coincidentally, it isn't 80 million people that live in 10% of the country, so something fishy was going on there. Here I am going up to the Washington Monument. There's a little, see that little ramp there? That gave me a kind of a vantage point with my selfie stick. I was able to elevate my camera, and I took some pretty good images here. So here you go. Now, that's the Lincoln Memorial. The Washington Post also said that the Lincoln Memorial was a scene of confrontation between protesters and cops. Now, I know that was rather quick, but could you see any protesters down there? There's nobody at the Lincoln Memorial. Maybe a dozen people. There's the African American History Museum behind me. The Washington Monument there. An impressive monument, to say the least. Well-behaved people. Yes, Robin, of course they're talking about this. It's the anniversary. It's 1 year. They're now using it. That is not a gun, by the way. That's a phone, in case anybody's wondering. It looked like a sidearm for a moment. Of course they're talking about it because now they're trying to use a clause in the 14th Amendment to disenfranchise and remove members of the Republican Party under the fraudulent claim they're part of some sort of fictional insurrection. Yeah, no, the Democrats are demonic. They'll break and violate the Constitution. They'll turn to it and try to use it and misuse it at every opportunity. And that's why they're still talking about this. Today is the 6th of January. Joe Biden is going to have a national speech in which he could actually make a lot of friends today. He could come out and be a leader and say, you know, the events that occurred on January 6th last year are unfortunate. See, there's the Lincoln Memorial down there. Do you see thousands of people? No, there's no rally down there. There's people walking from that direction because they're parked in Virginia and crossed the bridge on foot in a long walk to get to this. But they're talking about this because of the 6th of January. Biden should come out today and say the events that happened last year are unfortunate. Our government was woefully unprepared and ignored warning signs. And as a consequence, a couple of dozen criminals managed to break into the Capitol building, which was poorly defended. And as a consequence, we saw our nation divided in a very serious way. We can't allow this to happen in the future, and we'll prosecute those who committed crimes. I call for unity. That's what Joe Biden should say, but he's not going to do that. He's going to claim that Donald Trump led some kind of insurrection. He egged people on with his false claims about the events in November, and that's all bullshit. Do you see these people committing crimes? No, they're simply walking around, being present. That's it. Right. So this is footage from there. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. All right. I'll put the sound in for a moment. His son was talking a lot at this point. See the music in the background. I don't want to get a copyright strike from these ghouls. So I'm going to jump ahead here a few minutes. All right, here you go. Now that's about 10 minutes further. And look how many more people there now. Just 10 minutes later. Trump is speaking. Saying they got 12 million more people to vote for him than 4 years ago. Oh, there's a black guy, but no black people were present. Yeah, this was all just, white supremacists, this event, according to the media. According to the fake stream media and the Democrats, the demon grats who are in Congress, who are disgraceful and not leaders. Look at this crowd. This is the Trump rally. I didn't even realize it was a Trump rally until not all that long before this event took place. I went for the people who were going to be at the Capitol building, which comes later. Look at this guy dragging his kid, or this lady dragging the kid around. Annette Beckett, I contacted the FBI and sent them images and offered video. You can't just send the video. They didn't have a place to send video. The FBI never contacted me. Never contacted me. And I sent it immediately as soon as they put the website up so that the people who committed crimes could be prosecuted. But see, the lies that are told about this event include that. First off, read this hateful, disgusting, vile bile that comes out from the sycophants and the sick, twisted individuals like Joe Scarborough and the lies he tells. And he invokes the memory of his mother and how she was evangelist and how she fell for Tammy Faye Baker. And he blames the world for, evangelicals for Tammy Faye Baker. By the way, I'm not an evangelical, but I do respect people's faith. Unlike the political left. There's another Asian right there wandering around. Anyway, yeah. So, it's sick. It's sick. It's sick. Yes, I did try to send my footage in at Beckett, but they had no interest in it. And you know why they have no interest? Because this is the footage. And the footage of the Capitol, which I'm going to show as we go forward, is the footage. They have no interest in the footage that shows a lawful assembly of 250,000 or more people assembled to seek right, not here at the Capitol, to seek right of redress. They also have no interest in the false flag black individual whom I have on footage and I pointed out. They don't want the name of that guy. They don't want the guy that was exhorting people to commit violence. That's not something that interests the FBI. They have no interest in whatsoever because they're a fraud. They're an absolute fraud. Is Top Secrets here? Wow. Yeah, they're comparing this to Pearl Harbor. Does this look like the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor in our fleet? Does this look like Shays Rebellion in New England? Does this look like the Whiskey Rebellion, actual insurrections? Does this look like the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone? It does not. It looks like a lawful assembly, like anti-abortion, pro-life rallies that take place, the Million Man March. This is what it looks like. By the way, do you see trash on the ground? Do you see these people leaving their rubbish behind? No, you don't. There was no rubbish. Also, there were no toilets for us. The District of Columbia intentionally did not put out any portalets, not a single portalet. The Trump rally, the Trump campaign people put portalets up there on Constitution Avenue, but you couldn't get to them. There were like 20 portalets for 500,000 people. You do the math. And they were on a street where you couldn't even get to it. It took 45 minutes just to get to the damn things. And I'm not embellishing. You'll see that coming up. I'm walking through the crowd now, away from the Washington Monument, just trying to get a feel for things. So, do you see rubbish laying around? No. Do you see things being burned? Are tires being burned? By the way, I saw the Washington Post put an image up of a makeshift scaffold with a noose on it, which, by the way, was put in a spot where I was standing. Now, the image of the Capitol is a real image. I never saw any scaffold there. I have footage of it. It may have appeared later, but the nonsense going on is outrageous. Trump's talking here. Yeah, there was talk of removing the Jefferson Memorial last year, renaming it.
You'll see some really bad things happen. They'll knock out Lincoln too, by the way. They've been taking his statue down. But then we signed into law. You heard our monuments. You heard our heroes. You go to jail for 10 years and everything stops.
Now I ask you, does that sound like someone exhorting people to violence, to a coup, to an insurrection? No, he's simply bellyaching, moaning about the political wokeness and correctness of the country. That's what's going on there. That's what's going on there. U.S. Marine flag. No more bullshit. Yeah. Yeah. Look at this, folks. Look at this. Proud Boys? Where? Now, people who watch this will criticize me and say, but Chris, that's not the Capitol building. No, it's not. I promised you that I would be showing you. But there's a federal building. Have you seen it on top of it? There's two people in the corner. That's it. That's it on top of that federal building. It's it on the corner. Right there. Actually, three at this point. There were three then. Two on top of the African American History Museum. That's it. Where's law enforcement? Nowhere to be seen. Where are these altercations at the Washington Monument between law enforcement and Trump supporters? Non-existent. Fiction. We'll get to the Capitol building. That's only 30 plus minutes of video here. So actually, I almost put the same video in twice because of the way it was numbered last night. Oh, Nicklin saying the point I was trying to make is that the available D.C. officers number in the thousands of politicians in the rally would be peaceful, so they didn't call for thousands of officers. Oh, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But then the same politicians use this lack of law enforcement as something to cover up and then claim that an insurrection took place because they didn't defend the Capitol building. Exactly, Patrick. Who are the Proud Boys? They're some sort of group I'd never even heard of until 2020 when the media went ballistic on them. They're led by a Hispanic American, but it's supposedly a white supremacist group. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi was responsible for security at the Capitol. But look at this. Oh, these people look so dangerous. They're so angry. Look at these angry crowd, man. So angry. Total nonsense. Look at this. There's the White House. You can see straight ahead there, in quite a distance. You see the ABCs of evil, and then straight ahead is the White House. And Trump is out there on the ellipse. It's hard to see, but there's a screen between the White House and me, and that's where Trump is at. He's standing in front of that in the ellipse. And I'll work my way up. Now, this video is actually, I think, out of sequence. It's later, after I'd already went through the gauntlet, as I call it, where everybody was at. Yeah, when the liberals and Antifa attack, when a million angry women come out to this position and walk on the mall and then shout, blowing up the building and killing the president, that's okay. That's acceptable. When 2 days before this event, Antifa assaulted white tourists in D.C. because they were white, beat them on the streets while D.C. Metro Police sat in their patrol car, staying warm, watching it unfold and did nothing about it. Mira Bowser, after that happened, didn't call out the National Guard because of Antifa and burn, loot, murder, but she did call it out because this was a dangerous crowd. It was all virtue signaling. She said, "I'm calling out the Guard. We're concerned about the what do they call it? I don't know. They called it something in this rally, but I'm calling out the Guard." And then she called out 100. She activated 100 of 3,800 troops she had available. And do you see any National Guard troops? I found 2 of them. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, folks. Let me jump ahead. Hail to the chief, America. I love that. This guy's holding up his signs. Salute. This is pretty cool. American workers love Trump. Check this guy out. That's hilarious. Anyway, let me jump ahead a little bit. So that's 32 minutes in here. Let me jump up here. There, you can see that better. There, you can see the screen a little bit better. I'm going to jump a bit more here. Somehow I managed to miss. Here we go. Here we go. This is it. Okay. All right. This is the footage I want to show you. This is the Constitution. So that's the crowd. That's with a different device. I think this one was with my my other phone. It's a little bit darker. Stop the Steal. Thank you, Lachlan. That's what it's called. Stop the Steal. Yep. Hey, Beth. Yeah. So Trump was.
But now they see all this stuff. It's all come to light. This has happened that fast. And they want to recertify their votes.
Right here on Constitution Avenue, out in front of the White House.
Okay, this is Constitution Avenue in front of the White House. And it looks okay, right? This is where I start. Look at these Asian Americans, Chinese Communist Party, Stop the Chinese. This is a small portion of the Asian Americans. And I'm going to turn, and you're going to see the security that's just as I turn to, and you see where people drop their bags. So I'm going to play this portion, probably its entirety. And I don't know if I'm going to jump ahead, but this is, I went throughout the crowd. I walked over them all because I was there as a journalist documenting and recording the events, not as a partisan supporter, not as an interested party, not as an American citizen, but as a journalist for my audience so that you got facts. And this is real footage. Here we go.
Quite a crowd gathered.
I have to put on mute because this is where last year when I played this, I got a copyright claim for that music playing in the background. Do you believe the bullshit on this platform? It's not copyright. I mean, the public space. I can't control when people play music. Just like when I played Dion Gerber's video, because he had his car radio on, I was accused of copyright violation, and they attacked my video. Now, look, see all these bags right here? You see this? Look at these people snaking, trying to get in to see the president. That's the ellipse right there. This right here, the Washington Compost is claiming that that pile of bags is evidence that there was an insurrection. See this? People are banning because you cannot go in for security around the president. The Secret Service will not let you go in with those bags. So these bags are evidence of an insurrection. This is not the Capitol building. This is Constitution Avenue. This is where the president's at. Now you'll see people walking on the right-hand side in an open space there in a snake line of a queue doing this. They're coming forward and they toss their bags here. They abandoned their personal items on the hope that someone wouldn't steal it and they'll be able to cover it. That's how desperate they were to hear the president of the United States speak. This has been turned into a fraudulent lie by the Washington Compost, which, by the way, I paid for a subscription yesterday. They're so desperate for subscribers, the Washington Compost, that they offer me 1 year of all access digital content for $10 US. Couldn't refuse that. So now I'll be bringing you more Washington Post articles because I can see them, which is great because it's all leftist garbage and it's more for me to refute in the news and tear apart with facts. This is not an insurrection. These are people who risk their personal property, leaving it behind. Now, I would suspect most of them probably just have water, maybe some sunglasses in there, you know, maybe something, maybe a little beef jerky or biltong, something like that. But these people cannot enter to see the president and get through security with a bag. You have to leave your bag behind. That's why these bags were piled up here. But the Washington Post is claiming this is evidence of an insurrection. Liars. So, yeah, I comment on this. Let me see if I can get this real quick. See, there's tossing the bag. You see the guy in the pink vest that walked out there? He brought a bag out because someone walked through the line and then dumped the bag there. People abandon their bags like this rather than not be able to see the president. This was turned into a fraudulent claim of election. This portion right here I'm about to walk through took me 45 minutes to walk through because the crowd gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. Thicker and thicker. There's a super chat from Topsy Klutz. $5. Thank you, Topsy Klutz. And looks okay. It looks pretty thin. People selling stuff. There's queues as they get a little bit further. You can see the portalets coming up on the right-hand side. Now, there's an Ohio flag, and there's the security up there. They all go through security points where that little overhang is at. All right, it got thicker and thicker here, and it took me 45 minutes to go about 250 meters, 300 meters through here. See, maybe there's 30 portalets there for 500,000 people. These were provided by the Trump campaign. The DC provided 0 portalets for anyone. Now, these are all people trying to see the president. Look at them in line. And when they get up to the front, the security take away their bags and dump them there. Security, you're dumping their bags there. Now, there's the Christian flag for Christianity. That's a white with a blue background, the red cross in the corner. Now, look at this. It gets thicker and thicker as we go down the street. It becomes quite a mess trying to get through here. Does this look like an insurrection?
Okay, I'm not trying to get in. I'm just trying to get through.
Exactly. I'm just trying to get through. I was telling the guy next to me.
I'm trying to figure out what we're doing here.
It's a good use for PVC pipe.
Such a dangerous crowd. Look at these insurrectionists smiling. Weapons free. No weapons.
Now, when the fake stream, lame stream, fake news reports this today, folks, don't be deceived. They'll show a small crowd in the ellipse because of security measures, but there are hundreds of thousands of people out here. Don't be deceived by the fake stream and lame stream media.
Right on.
Lady
People hanging in the trees.
Look at that,
like
they're in the
Lincoln's
trees.
inauguration.
Men in trees.
As you can see, it's taken me quite a while to work my way through this crowd.
Pack my sardines in there. You sure you want to go?
long wait to get in.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure. I apologize. I didn't mean to touch you. No worries, man.
Listen to those white supremacists. They're so rude, apologizing for bumping into other people walking through the crowd. They're so terrible. Man, I'd swear all these people were pickpocketed and then were people stealing their wallets. Not. Look at this angry crowd. Look at this. Wow. Such horrible events occurred that day. Honest. Now, this is before Trump spoke, by the way. So these videos are actually out of sequence. My apology for that. In my rush to get this video up the other day and make it, I obviously put this in the wrong order. This is before Trump spoke. So the video you saw a little while ago of Trump speaking. I mean, look at this. I can't get through the crowd. Okay, I finally got through. And look at this. People are in the trees over here. They're hanging out in the trees. But this happens a lot in D.C. on events like this.
That's a selfie stick right there. That's American ingenuity right there, man. USA.
They were loving my selfie stick. Oh, that guy's. He made it use a stick. He actually used a stick.
That's a good idea.
It worked.
Look at that crowd. Colorado for Trump. It took me nearly a half an hour to get out of that spot. I jumped ahead there with another clip. Eventually, I put my phones down because I'm not a fool. I mean, I realize there probably are some thieves out here, pickpockets. It's a big crowd. That's an opportune time for thieves. So I put my stuff in my pockets where people couldn't get to it, and I just tried to work my way through the crowd, so I couldn't film the whole thing. I figured I got enough footage. But look at this dangerous, dangerous crowd. All these evil, evil people. There it is. Stop the steal. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what the rally was called. Deplorables for Trump. Texas. There you go. Yep. Gadsden flags abounding. There's the African American History Museum as I make my way back. So many people. So many people. All right, let me jump ahead a little bit more here, folks.
Security. People not allowed to take backpacks in, so they're just dropping their backpacks by the hundred. Quite a huge crowd, banners everywhere, stolen election, screw Biden, all kinds of things like that. Lots of banners, lots of flags, a lot of people out here, folks. Pretty intense. You should have seen the crowd up there earlier. I streamed up towards it where people were trying to get into the ellipse to see the president going through security. People not allowed to take backpacks in, so they're just dropping their backpacks by the hundreds out there, trusting somebody's not going to steal them. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. It just shows how much people want to be up close near the president for this today. So, yeah. Pretty crazy stuff here. 6th of January, the final step in the certification of Electoral College results. And it looks like we're going to have a collection of callow, weak-willed members of the House and the Senate. There's a...
All right, you got music playing in the background. I'll get another copyright claim. Utter nonsense. There's no copyright to claim here. Anyway, so... All right, so this is along... Okay, that's the corner. Now I'm walking... Okay, so hang on a second right there. All right, if you look to the left, that's the mess I came through a while ago. On the right, at the top of the screen, is the White House grounds. I'm going to turn to the right and walk down the road next to it, which I think is 15th Street or something like that. And you'll see the crowd's much thinner on that side because that's not where the focus is. I walk around that building to Pennsylvania Avenue where I see two National Guardsmen in the car. I don't think I actually recorded them in the car for security reasons. And then I go down the back side of the street, and then I start coming back to the African American History Museum, and then I head over to the mall because Trump was late. This was before Trump spoke. Like I said, this is out of order. When Trump spoke, he was so late. I didn't go there for Trump. I went there for the rally at the Capitol building. So I left so I could get there in time. And I arrived literally at 1 o'clock in the steps of the Capitol building. And Congress began its session at 1 p.m. So here you go. You can see me turning down the street there. This is on the side. On the left-hand side is the grounds of the White House. And these are people coming and milling about. It's a federal building on the right-hand side there. Do you see any law enforcement, folks? Do you see any police at all? There's a cop car right there. I guess I never noticed that was a cop car before. Okay. That's an unmarked car with lights on it. That's probably why I never noticed it. All right. Now I'm walking down the street. Other people going the other way because they're trying to get to the ellipse. I'm just trying to cover the event. So I'm walking down the street here. I stopped and talked to a couple people here. This guy's hawking some shirts. Yeah. And so you can see the White House is up there. Turn around behind me there, catch. And there's the Washington Monument. So you have a kind of orientation where I was at, and I'm walking away from it. This is all before Trump spoke. You can see all the Secret Service vehicles over there on the lawn. There's law enforcement, police, and Secret Service on the White House grounds, but nowhere else. All right, so, yeah. Let me go ahead and jump ahead so we can get to the Capitol building because that's what you all want to see. This guy's playing the drums. That was pretty cool. All right. Oh, actually, I'm coming up on the only place where the National Guard are. They're sitting in that vehicle up there. I wonder if I kept that on camera. Let's look and see if I kept that on camera. I thought I didn't record it. So Pennsylvania Avenue is just right up here by that dump truck. This would be the east side of the White House. Yep, that's where the National Guard are, sitting in that car. Right there. What an angry crowd. Look at this violence. And now I'm walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, away from everything. Once again, do you see rubbish tossed on the streets?
They shut down everything in the center of D.C.
Do you see rubbish on the streets? Do you see people misbehaving? No, not like other rallies in D.C. Yep. So people are still streaming towards it because, again, this is before Trump spoke. You saw back there, that vehicle was the only time I saw D.C. National Guardsmen. They were in uniform sitting in that vehicle staying warm. I don't blame them staying warm, but they weren't accomplishing anything other than virtue signaling that Muriel Bowser gave us. Okay, we're going to end this video. Now here I've jumped back to the African American History Museum. That's where this is at. The African American History Museum is to my back. I'm standing alongside it, back up on the other end of that street. All right, so this is people headed towards the Capitol building now. Okay, so that's the end of that stream. Let me end that one. Okay, let me turn the screen off real quick and come back to me. Okay, so let me bring up the other video very quickly here. All right, so we got $5 on a super chat from Topsy Cuts. Thank you for that. Don't forget, folks, at the top of the next hour is Answer the Question with the Wise Bros, Rob Hutchison and myself on the channel. That's coming up. But meantime, let's continue with this special coverage of the rally that took place last year. Okay, which one is it here I used? Okay, it's this one next, I think. Is this it? Hang on a second. Yeah, okay, here we go. This is the one I made from last night. Okay, let's play this one real quick. Take myself off the camera there. Here you go. Here we go. Now, why does this one have that thing on there? Okay. Hello, folks, and welcome back to Untitled Africa. This is Chris in central Pennsylvania. What you're about to see is approximately 30 minutes of unedited raw footage from the events that unfolded last year at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. You'll see a dearth of police presence. You'll see a ludicrous system of barriers that wouldn't stop a toddler, let alone a crowd of people. You'll also see some inappropriate behavior by some people in the crowd saying, F the police. And you may hear some of us telling them to knock it off because we don't accept their behavior. We don't have issues with law enforcement. That's not what this was about. It was about seeking a right of redress and airing grievances before the government, which is constitutionally guaranteed under the First Amendment, as is freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. All lawful actions taken this day when permits were issued by the Capitol Police for multiple protests to take place at this facility. In the face of multiple protests and the likelihood there would be hundreds of thousands of people present on the mall that day, the Capitol Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the National Counterterrorism Center, the legislative branch all chose to ignore, as well as the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, ignore what was happening. She made a big show of calling out the National Guard, but only brought up 100 members of her 3,800-member D.C. force, purely as a political show, not for an effective force. The dearth of police that you see here at the Capitol building was exhibited even in worse shape throughout the mall and across by the Washington Monument. I read with great incredulity today, the Washington Post make a claim that law enforcement clashed with protesters at the Washington Monument that morning. I was there from 10 o'clock onwards. There was no clash with law enforcement. I don't know what they're talking about. Never saw it. There was no law enforcement present, so I don't know how they clashed with anybody at the Washington Memorial. It's got lots of footage. That's in my other video. But let's Washington Monument, not Washington Memorial. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my screen here a second here. For some reason, this thing is not going full screen. I don't get it. There we go. Now we got it back. Okay, so, yeah. So, now what we have is I'm going to show you a fair portion of the 28 minutes, but not all of what happened on the mall. So, here's, I'm going to bring it back up real quick. There we go. All right, so that's an image, and then I'm going to start showing you actual video here in just a moment here of what unfolded on the steps of the Capitol building. Yeah, now people here are more animated and yelling and screaming, and some people misbehaving. But if you go watch the videos in total, one of them's on this channel, the rest are on Odyssey and Rumble, you will see and you'll hear me in the background telling people to knock off the nonsense. At one point, I'm like, listen, knock it off. They brought snipers out. You're misbehaving. It's unacceptable. And other people telling people to stop their nonsense. Let me jump ahead here a little bit. Okay. All right, here you go. So here are people peacefully walking up to the building. See the gay pride flags? A lot of homosexuals openly in support of Donald Trump that were at this event. A lot. Peaceful. There you go. LGTB for Trump. People of faith. What you're seeing here, you can hear the wind. It was quite cold, plus the wind was blowing. By the way, to the left-hand side, that's where people were dropping trowel and peeing right over there. You see a crowd of people because there was no toilets. Yeah, there was no toilets. So these are people leaving the Trump rally, headed to the Capitol building. Now, I show that flag, but that's not a one-off. And you'll see prominently at the front of what's happening at the Capitol building, dozens of LGBT crowd flags. Lots of homosexuals support Donald Trump because they know the lies said about him are simply lies. He doesn't have an issue with gay Americans. So what the heck is this? This is more nonsense. Sorry, my mobile's getting a call. So you can see the Washington Monument behind me there. I kept saying memorial. It's I meant to say monument. African American History Museum to the right. And you see I captured the crowd. That was the purpose of this. People of faith, homosexuals, white folks, black folks, Hispanics, Asians, all kinds of people in this crowd. All right, let me jump ahead a little bit from there. All right, okay, that's a little too far. Okay, here we go. I want to get to the approaches. Okay, so here we go. Now we're approaching the Capitol building itself just before 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. Now this is almost, it's about 12:57. The Congress meets at 1 o'clock. You can already see lots of people. To answer the question about the scaffolding, Mr. Punisher, you can see up there that they've got stands erected on both sides. That's for all the sycophants and the privileged elites to sit there for the inauguration that was due to take place on the 23rd of January. So they set this up for every inauguration. They put the tower up. But the issue here is, why is this tower set up before this rally and the Electoral College is even certified for the inauguration? This is a full 2 weeks before it needs to be set up, and they've set it up, which just makes me sniff and say, set up, set up, set up. Also, why was the crowd allowed to approach? This is not defended. This ground was not shut off in any way. People were given permits to protest here, and I'm walking up, and you'll see this is where they're protesting at. They're allowed to get up this close to the Capitol building, and then we're told there's an insurrection. If there's an insurrection, look, do you see many cops? There's some up above, but there's like 20 cops right there. 100 total. Here's more rushing over from one side to reinforce where these idiots are trying to cause trouble. Look at that tower. People are climbing up it. No security. It wasn't locked. It wasn't defended. It wasn't protected. It was established and set up, and they allow people to get above law enforcement. They are over top the cops. This is intentional. This is abysmal. This guy has tear gas in his eyes because he was up there messing with the cops. They maced him.
It's a fucking shit show.
This doesn't really help our cause.
Doesn't really know, but God, I'm pissed off, man.
All right, you heard the guy say this is an effing crap show, and you're hearing me, if you listen carefully, saying this doesn't help our cause. This isn't how people are supposed to behave, and other people agreeing with me.
A phalanx back there behind the wall, and up there they've got rifles. So knock the stupid shit off.
That's me. That's me. As a law-abiding citizen, exhorting people to behave themselves.
They know if they use rifles all over. Oh, yeah.
Now, those people pouring water are the ones who got maced by the cops. We heard the race merchant herself, the disgusting, vile racist Kamala Harris, claim that if black people had been present, they would have been treated differently and gassed. See the journalist up there with his cameras? He's even got a press pass. Almost no cops out there. Do you see any riot gear? I don't see a single nightstick in use. This guy walking over and telling the journalist to move away, and the journalist moves away. These are supposed to be the barriers that stop people from coming up there. That's it. That's all they did. This is a joke. This is a joke. This is not an insurrection. Now, look around. See the people who got tear gas? They're the ones that were antagonizing the police. They should be arrested. Now, the rest of us got tear gas and CS and riot gas in our faces because they sprayed these troublemakers with it, and it blew across because the wind, you can see the direction the wind's blowing. Oh, look, a black man. Oh, I thought, oh, it's all white people. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've moved around and repositioned. Here's what's going on. Yeah, Anna Marie, I haven't heard the video, so I'm not going to play it. I mean, last time I did that, someone said play this, and I started getting lots of profanity after the fact. So I'm not going to play that right now. I'll play it afterwards, and if it's something I can use, I'll use it later today. Yeah, so this is what's going on. Now, people start throwing water bottles at the cops. This is an insurrection, throwing a plastic water bottle. It's inappropriate. It's wrong, but it's not an insurrection. Now, again, I see someone's got the flag upside down. That's a sign of distress up there. That's a political statement. I left before this crowd and some of the instigators in it started causing trouble. See the scaffolding? That's all for the inauguration. That's what they do every 4 years.
Dips.
Pulling barriers away.
Why the scaffolding? It's a virtual inauguration, you dips.
That was actually me, without using profanity, saying, why is there scaffolding? This is supposed to be a virtual inauguration. They weren't even supposed to be having an inauguration out there. Now, the police, now they've reinforced. They've brought some more. There are about 50 police officers there with a few hidden in the back, some up on the top in that round up there. That's it. That's it for 500,000 people. This is the police presence they put out there that day. No riot gear. Do you see them wearing body armor? These cops aren't even wearing body armor. This was an intentional effort. Now, there's a journalist up there filming the cops. Another journalist. But there were clearly troublemakers, some of them Trump supporters over the left-hand side there. Okay, this is the right side. Now, this is where the black guy, if we get to it, is trying. There's another black guy. Well, there's no black people here. Look at these idiots climbing up there. This is moronic. Why was this allowed to occur? And there's another scaffolding set, and they're climbing on that. Another gay pride. There's people throwing water bottles. Not acceptable.
You're gonna need more people!
Yeah, I didn't finish the word. I said dip.
The oath of office! You took it all! You defend the people!
This is at about 1:30 now.
Constitution! Not the criminal!
Traitors. Our house, somebody shouted. Wait, there you go. There you go. You see that? You see that? Hold on. Okay. You see that? One of the instigators, the guy shows up with a mask on. That's one of these people started showing up around this time, and I started to get very suspicious about what's going on here. If you saw him walk through the crowd, he had a mask on to protect him from CS. Protesters don't show up like that. These were people in the crowd intentionally there trying to get people provoked. And that's what was happening. Yep. Red Robin says, have these protests provided proof that Biden stole the election? I'm sorry, Red Robin. I'm a little confused. Are protesters law enforcement officials? Are they prosecuting attorneys? Are they attorneys general? Are they secretaries of the 50 states? What the hell do protesters have to do with presenting evidence? How could a protester present evidence unless they were an official in an election? I mean, your question has no basis or merit to it whatsoever, Red Robin. I don't get it. I don't get it. If your point is then if they don't present evidence, they can't claim something, well, then tell Hillary Clinton to shut the fuck up. Macedonian server farms, she's still bitching about that 5 years later. Fraudulent fairy tale. No one's complaining about that. And many of these people weren't there about a stolen election. There's a cop beating somebody up there because he's pissed off. Look at this. By the Gadsden flag. He starts assaulting people, that cop, with no helmet on. They're wearing bicycle helmets. These cops aren't even wearing Kevlar. They're wearing bicycle helmets. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yes, compared to the burn, loot, murder crowd, this is a Sunday school. Jonathan's making a claim that I have no evidence of. I do know that there were people that had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Or look at this guy with a mask on. There's another one of these idiots that's put in there. Suddenly, there were about 30 of these people I saw in the crowd. After about 15 or 20 minutes, they started showing up in different spots in the crowd. This idiot yelling there. Now you can see why I left after an hour and a half, because there was nothing happening here. Yeah, Anna Marie's defending me. I never... Oh, okay, I'll answer the question, right, Robin? Okay. Here you go. So this, what does Stop the Steal mean? That was a slogan, and that was the name of the rally, because many people there thought that the election was stolen. They thought. It's not their job to present evidence. It's their opinion. It's their view. If the View can spew their racial hatred and anti-Semitism every day, if members of Congress like Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley can be anti-Semitic from the pulpit of the national Capitol, then ordinary American citizens can express their views about how they felt about this election. Now, none of them had to present any evidence. It wasn't about evidence. This is a constitutionally guaranteed right for citizens to freedom of assembly, to seek a right of redress over their grievances with the government. This was a grievance. The government was ignoring the citizens. That's why people showed up. That's what it's all about. Anna Marie's defending me. Yes, I never claimed the election was stolen. Never claimed. I was falsely accused of that by YouTube. Not a single statement I ever said the election was stolen. I reported anomalies in the state of Pennsylvania, and I questioned conduct in other states. Never made any such claim that anything was stolen. That's a fact. Not that Red Robin wasn't accused me of that. Just I think Anne Marie's just trying to defend me and try to be clear. So let's just continue.
January 6, 2020.
It's 2021. I
Capitol
misspoke.
Police are letting off flashbangs. People have been pushing up against the line. They're getting sprayed with pepper spray. Acting the fool. Not the best of ideas. You hear the flashbangs going off around me here as I spin around so you can see the Capitol building. It's an angry crowd. It's a mean crowd.
I was trying to do a Starship Troopers thing there. I'll do it in a second. Here we go.
Feel like I'm at Planet X. It's an ugly planet. It's a bug planet. Crazy stuff, folks.
Flashbangs going off. Some were being put out by the instigators in the crowd, some by the police. So the Washington Post is also taking to claiming that this was a rally and a riot that went on for hours and hours, lying about this whole thing. This started at 1 p.m. There were already people there before 1 p.m., but this started at 1 p.m. when Congress convened. Donald Trump went on Twitter after 3:30 or something like that. The violence, or at 4 o'clock, the violence didn't start until 2:25. Or until about 2:30. I left at 2:25. There was nothing happening. This is what was going on. Now, here's where the black guy is coming up who's trying to incite people to violence. I want to play that if we can get to it here before we run out of time. Let me jump ahead a little bit here. Okay, this guy got gassed. Let me see. I don't want to skip here. These people we got tear gassed. Okay, I went away from it. So, yeah, this is inappropriate. This is wrong. This is wrong. These people should be arrested. They took this Trump sign and threw it into the police. Every one of them should be charged with violent crimes. Coughing is not because we had Rona. It's because it was tear gas being used against us. And the racist Kamala Harris claimed that if black people were there, I'm trying to find where the black guy is. He was in the crowd. I think I missed it back there earlier. Yeah, it was back here, I think. Oh, here he is. There he is. There he is. Okay, watch this clown. Listen to this idiot. Black guy with the do-rag on. Right there. That guy's one of the false flag operators that was there. It's not a Trump supporter who was trying to exhort people to violence. He was using profane language saying, get up there, charge, it's just me, stop being pussies, get involved, and trying to get, at least people just standing around looking at him like he's a freaking retard because they had no interest in violence. They weren't there for violence. He's trying to get people to commit violent acts. I offered this footage to the FBI. They have no interest in it whatsoever. He was involved in this nonsense. He caused chaos. There's another black guy right there, just an innocent black guy walking around. This guy was part of what was going on. I suspect he was part of BLM or Antifa. These people all got tear gas and they're trying to get it out of their face. CS riot gas. All right. So, yeah. I moved from this spot because the wind was blowing it into my face. There were protesters using it over there, the instigators, and the cops throwing the stuff out there. So now I'm walking away from it. And then that's where the little sign gets carried up there. These idiots right there. And they throw it into the police. Criminals. There it is. See, it's being launched over. It's hard to see in the center. They're pushing into over the crowd. This is ridiculous.
This is our government, baby.
Offered this footage to the FBI. They have no interest. Lock them up. Traitors. All right, some moron says F the police, and a bunch of us are like, shut up. Shut up. Somebody vaping there. There's some Hispanic Americans walking away. There's a black guy on the left with a mohawk on. Yep. Anyway, the reason I point this out is because the media lies about who was present and who wasn't present. So this is me walking down through the crowd now to a different vantage point to get a better view as I'm getting ready to leave. And I'm glad I did this because you get to see the full size of this crowd. Damn flags were blowing in my face. Oh yeah, 10,000. That's what the leftists try to claim, 10,000 people. They're not very good at counting. Oh, shit. Whoops, sorry. I nearly got knocked over. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Guy caught my phone.
Clearly not a leftist crowd. I never would have seen it again.
That's right. He'll be here again.
No, my hat. I never would have seen it again.
Yeah, my hat blew off. That's why I said shit. It wasn't the phone. I dropped the phone earlier. My hat blew off, and the guy grabbed it and gave it back to me. I said, clearly not a leftist crowd. I never would have seen that hat again. See, oh, what a bunch of violent people. Now they're chanting "Stop the Steal."
There were some provocateurs up there who were starting trouble. Yeah, look at that. It's all the way back to Mall. Trying to get a better view here, but that tree's in the way. You slide over this way, maybe I can get a better view. Thanks.
People politely moved out of the way so I could get a better view. Look at all those people, as far as you can see.
Flashbangs again from the Capitol Police.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, if black people had been involved, they would have been beaten with truncheons and CS would have been used on them. Dogs would have been sick on them. The only thing that didn't happen, there weren't any dogs. But truncheons were used, CS was used, but most of the cops didn't have nightsticks. I don't know what the hell is going on here. This was crazy. This is intentional. Look at this terribly violent crowd. This is almost 2:30. It's about 2:15, 2:20 right here, an hour and 15 minutes after the crowd shows up. The tactical plan of the Capitol Police is something that should have gotten them all fired in leadership positions. What kind of moron allows people to approach the building this close where the scaffolding is, putting them up in an advantageous position in which they could have murdered cops from above right there? Their tactical plan was bullshit. There should have been a barrier down by the water pool in front of this building and a phalanx of law enforcement along with concrete jersey barriers and concertina wire. That's what should have been down there. This was an abysmal leadership failure on the part of the Capitol Police, the D.C. Mayor, Muriel Bowser, the Department of Defense, the D.C. National Guard, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the National Counterterrorism Center, and above all, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. But these people didn't come for violence. These people didn't threaten anyone. These people committed no crimes. 500,000 law-abiding citizens obeying the law and following their constitutional rights. Do you see rubbish? No rubbish. No burned buildings, no toppled statues, no burned paintings, no assaults, no robberies, no rapes, no burning tires. This is the face of law-abiding citizenry. Not BLM, not Antifa. Yet they are hailed by these corrupt individuals to sit in that building while these people are demonized. That's the purpose of the stream today. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. This is switched to a different phone. Not nearly as good a quality, so it's darker and a little bit grainy. That was this phone here. It's just a regular phone, not high quality like my other phone was. Boy, if I had this year, this thing would have been awesome with half a terabyte of data and this quality phone camera on here. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here in a few seconds, folks, because Rob Hutchison and I are on top of the hour. This is me getting ready to leave.
They want us to be owned by a communist country so they can rule.
That lady wasn't happy.
Fucking commie!
People are already leaving. Well, now that you have a chance to take a look at that footage, if you took a look at my previous video, which was an hour long, and that was the previous nearly 3 hours of content. This was an hour and a half condensed into about 30 minutes, but the other 3 hours was condensed into about an hour. So if you look at this content, you can see for yourself law-abiding, peaceful assembly, people behaving themselves. Now, I will admit freely that what occurred at the Capitol occurred after my departure at about 14:25, 2:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I left. It was cold. It was getting colder. I had come to cover the event. I couldn't live stream. So I made videos. My battery died on my mobile. My battery was dying on my other mobile. It was time to go. And so I left at about 2:25. Saw TV crews, unidentified, or film crews at least, I don't know if they're TV, down the block, watched them packing up their gear, unmolested. Later heard that TV crews had been assaulted. Perhaps they were, but not from my vantage point. Did not see that happen. And I walked back to my car. By the time I got back to my car, I was setting up my phone on my dashboard to do a live stream because I had a signal once again, and I could tell people what had happened. As I was about to go live, I received a text message, emergency notification, that there was a curfew called in the nation's capital. Considering that 500,000 people were gathered in the nation's capital and they weren't all staying in hotels, many had cars somewhere, I figured the best idea was to get out of town as quick as possible. So I left, I drove, and on the way out of town, I was passed by a couple of dozen of law enforcement agency police vehicles coming from Northern Virginia, coming down the GW Park. All right, I'm going to stop it there, folks, because I have to get off this stream because it's time for Rob Hutchison and I to come on here shortly. So, yeah, I hope that you found that insightful and informative. Now, I will freely admit there were people who supported Trump who committed crimes. There's no doubt about that. There are people, but it was a few dozen people, not 750 people. The vast majority of people who entered that building unlawfully did so at the invitation of law enforcement, who opened the doors and let them walk in. Also, when they went in this so-called insurrection, they milled around. Most of them stood around. The only footage you've seen of people rushing through the building and threatening officers is the body cam footage and then the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. Most people are simply walking around the building that was largely undefended. Not an insurrection. These are total lies perpetrated by political frauds and opportunists. Arrest the people who broke into the building. The people who entered without authorization, admonish them and tell them you can't enter the building without credentials and going through a security checkpoint. You were wrong. But they don't belong in federal prison as convicted felons with their lives destroyed because political leftists want to use them for fodder. That is wrong. Also, you need to charge the people responsible leadership for the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, the mayor of D.C., the commanding general of the D.C. National Guard, and the Capitol Police for their failure, their abject failure in leadership, their lack of vision, their lack of planning, and their total wholesale disregard for warning by intelligence services who provided them raw intelligence and analytical intelligence in the days and the weeks leading up to this event. They are the ones responsible for the chaos on the Capitol, not law-abiding citizens who've been denigrated by the likes of Joe Scumbag Scarborough and the political left. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to smash the like button before it gets censored by PooTube. Thank you so much. There is nothing here. No one claimed that anything was stolen. I didn't claim. I simply reported on what happened there. Didn't claim it was stolen. Never made that claim. For the AI from YouTube, if you're listening, I never made that claim. This is called reportage, showing events as they unfolded and then commenting on it. I never made any such claim. Also never claimed that nothing happened. Never claimed it was a tourist event, which is what this is the montage now. The idiots in the political left going on, oh, Republicans are claiming it was just a tourist event. No. Who said that? Where did you get that from? That's like saying beam me up Scotty. Was never stated. Just some nonsense perpetrated in the press. Tourist event, my ass. It was a lawful assembly that was misused by opportunists on the political left and some on the right. There you go. Well, they didn't get in the White House flesh, and they got into the Capitol building. Yep. Anyway, there you go, folks. There you go. So that's it. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate it. We'll catch you here with Rob Hutchison in about 6 minutes. Got to go. Be sure to smash the like button. Share this link with others if you don't mind. This is my personal experience that day. And as I said, the FBI had no interest in the videos whatsoever. I can show you clear provocateurs who were troublemakers, instigators, and the FBI has no interest in pursuing them. At least they don't need my evidence. There were so many people taking images, they probably don't need mine, to be honest. I mean, mine's probably just one more in a cacophony of video footage. So there you go. All right, folks, see you shortly with Rob Hutchison here in about 5 minutes. Thank you for the super sticker, Patrick.